Thank you very much. I'm glad to have this opportunity to be able to talk about my brother, George. During the burial, I was not able to give an eulogy about me and my brother, because at that time we were handling a lot of issues, trying to ensure that our visitors were taken care of. And when my turn came to give an account between me and George, it was not possible because of the commitment that I've talked about. However, those who talked, including my sister Lillian, my brother Paul, and my mother, gave an account almost similar to what I would have given. In this recording, I seek to give just the part that was so personal between me and George that they probably could not have given because they didn't know about it. George was someone who was very close to my heart, and personally have been affected by his death. George's death occurred at a time when we least expected it. Before I go into the last days that we spent with him, I would want to briefly talk about my relationship with George from the beginning. George is somebody whose ideas and my ideas were rhyming. In fact, we never had difficulty trying to arrange anything. His ideas would go very well with my ideas, and we would understand each other very fast. I remember when George started working in Awendo as a casual laborer in Sony Sugar Company. At that time, I visited him when I was still in Form 2. I don't know why I visited him, but I just wanted to visit him, and actually I was armed with a one-way fare. So I went to Awendo, and I was able to trace him, although it was hard because at that time, you remember, we didn't have mobile phones. I had not written to him prior, so I was actually taking chances that probably, because I knew George was somebody who would talk with people, he would be known. So I was very sure that if I described him around, someone would lead me to the right direction. And of course, even though it took a little bit longer, but I was able to find him, and he welcomed me very, very okay. He prepared a little supper, we ate, he took me out, we had fun, came back, slept, and went back to school the following morning. Of course, he gave me fare to go back to school, and some pocket money. That was George. He was always willing to share what he had. When I finished high school, we still kept very close with George. In fact, I remember staying in his house for almost 1 month after high school. And he even took me to the factory where he was working, showed me around. My first ever time to get into that factory. We went to very sensitive places. Everywhere we passed, people knew him. So by extension, I was granted access to areas that I would never have stepped into if not for him. When I went to Strathmore, I used to the relationship between me and George still remained. When I came from Strathmore on my way on my way home, I would pass by his house. In fact, he always insisted that I had to pass by his house. He didn't want me to go home without passing by his house. And on my way from home back to Strathmore, I would still pass by his house. He would give me fare, notwithstanding the fact that I probably must have been given fare from home. He gave me pocket money. He always wanted to make sure that I was okay in school. After my studies, got my first employment, I went to Nyeri, and we kept in touch. We kept writing letters until the time the mobile phones were introduced. We actually bought mobile phones. We exchanged the numbers, and we were now able to communicate almost on a daily basis through text messages, through calls, and the relationship between us grew day by day. It grew stronger day by day. At that time, I used to pass by his place on my way from Nyeri to home, and on my way from home to Nyeri. George, being the entrepreneur that he was, and being the hard-working man that he was able to build a near empire, business empire, from a kiosk. In fact, George started from a kiosk, a Mabati kiosk, where he used to carry his merchandise from the house, put them in the kiosk in the morning, sell during the day, and then bring them back at night. Such was the resilience that George had. Even when he lost his job, he still managed to survive. In fact, I was joking with him another time. I was telling him, I think you're better off right now than you are when you are working. George rose in business, and his stamina was admirable. At the height of the election fever in 2007, when things were not going on very well, I actually quit my job in Nyeri and came back home. Coincidentally, as fate would have it, George also was not going on very well in his business, and actually he decided to venture into transportation business. He bought a pickup and tried his hand in that also. Unfortunately, things never went on very well for both of us. Especially, I lost my job, and George also, the business had come down. The pickup was not doing well. We really had to hustle to keep our families going. We didn't expect much from our parents because they were aging, and their income was actually diminishing. So we really didn't expect a lot from them. But they did their best to support us with what they had. But that left us with the bulk of the provisions to come from us. We had to do many jobs. We did a lot of hard work, something we were not used to put food on the table for our families. It is our families that kept us going. It's our children, our wives that kept us going. George would give up, but I would encourage him. I would tell him, George, you cannot give up. We cannot let these people down. We will be the last people to give up. These people have so much hope and faith in us. We cannot let them down at this time. We ought to try our best to ensure that these people are comfortable. And George, being the friend and the brother who really listened to me, he listened to me, and it kept us going. It kept us going.